Welcome to the official Quality Professionals Awards Further Education and Employability launch event for 2025. We said we'd be back, and here we are. For those of you who I haven't met, my name is Lou Doyle. In my day job, I'm the Chief Executive Officer at Mesmer, and we are the founders of the not-for-profit awards that we created last year. For any of you who are completely new to the awards, we'll tell you a little bit about where they came from and a few things about last year's awards before taking us on to have a look at the year ahead. But I have to say, we are absolutely delighted to be back for a second year, honouring the outstanding contributions of quality and compliance practitioners and leaders in further education. I'm just going to hand you over to Sally now, who's going to tell you a bit about our agenda for today, once I can get my slides to play. So Sal, let me bring you in there to say hello as well.
Hi everyone, my name's Sally Forsyth. I'm the marketing manager at Mesmer and I support the Quality Professionals Awards with another hat on. So today we are going to cover what's on the screen in front of you there. So we'll do a quick recap on QPA 2024. We couldn't help ourselves. We wanted to go back in time and live it all again. So we'll just do a little bit of a relive today. And we'll also share some of the new features for this year. We'll take a look at how we are sharing the experiences of the awards finalists in order to inspire others in the Speaking of Excellence podcast and the resources that will follow with that. And I can see as well, Lou, when you were chatting there, I could see that we've also got some of our podcast stars in the audience today as well. So that's great. We'll go through the awards categories and we'll offer some tips for making your QPA nomination. The awards wouldn't exist without the supporters. Again, I can see some of them in the audience today. We will touch on the support that we've had so far from our sponsors and partners and the opportunities that are still available. Some are new to this year. Then finally, we will start to plan ahead with the key dates and the next steps for College Professionals Awards 25.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Sally. So let me, as Sal said, take you a little bit back to the origins of the awards. So some of you, if you humour me for a little while, because I know you know this a little bit better, but some perhaps for the first time. So the Quality Professionals Awards really came out of, or it was born out of, one particular kind of overarching objective and some sub-objectives, if you like, that sit under that. The core objective that we were trying to achieve was, how did we start to bring into the spotlight people who are in quality and compliance roles who have a significant impact on quality within FE skills and employability, so that we could start to kind of elevate the status of those roles, but also start to think about, which leads me to the second point, that we could find a different way of sharing good practice. What we really want to do when we're looking forward, and I'll say a bit more about this in the legacy in a short while, is to think about how we further professionalise those roles. And the one that I am absolutely delighted about is continuing to bring together the further education and employability sectors. There is a huge amount for us to learn, and we're very privileged in our day jobs that Sally and I get to see the employability sector, we get to see the FE and skills sector. And there's lots of things in relation to quality and compliance that are done differently, but actually when you bring them together, there is a huge opportunity for us to learn across the piece on that. So we're desperately keen to do that. So that's where they came from. That's the origin of them. In terms of how QPA 24 went, if you like, we got together in Leeds in June. Some of you I know were there. And the idea was that we would have an event which would celebrate the finalists, and very much it not just being about winners, it being about all of the people, the 200 people that were in that room on that day, because there was something to say about every single one of them, and we made sure that we said something about every single one of them, and we intend to do that again in the year ahead. So I think what we hope that we'll keep, and Sal will tell you a bit more about this later, is the informality of that celebration, coupled with it really feeling like a day when we are putting people on a pedestal, because fundamentally that's what it's about. The awards cover the whole of the UK and Ireland. Therefore, the reason that it was in Leeds and the reason that it's going to stay in Leeds is because when you look at the different constituent parts of UK and I, that's probably somewhere close to being in the middle. If I were being really pedantic about it, we should probably put it in Newcastle, because that's really where the middle is. But I know that feels a long way if you're coming from the south coast. So we're going time for Leeds and we're going to stay there, but we'll tell you a bit more about the changes in venue. For those of you who were there on the day last year, please head to the chat if you would, and perhaps share your experience of it, because one, we'd love to hear it, but also to perhaps encourage some of the people who are online today to get involved this year as well. If I start to break some of that down in numbers for you, and actually we'll send you out in case you haven't seen it, or Sal will put a link in the chat, a copy of the video that was done on the day as well, to give you a bit of a flavour for how the day went. But if we turn that into some numbers for you, just briefly, we had very quickly, I have to say, within a month or so of the awards launching, because although we did some research in the market, it's not really until you go out to market that you know whether or not people will really engage. And very quickly we knew that we'd done the right thing. We had over 2,000 plus LinkedIn followers very quickly. We aim to get that to 5,000 this year, and then we'll keep building on it. We've actually got a really interesting global reach that's starting to come through as well. By the time the awards had been awarded, we had over 300,000 impressions, again, coming from all over the globe. And you probably start to get a sense of my ambition for the awards in me mentioning that more than once. We had 250 individuals nominated in the different categories. We're going to tell you about those in a moment, and again, some of the additions. 19 high-profile judges who I cannot thank enough. You know, it's one thing when you bring a when you've got established awards in the system, you can get people engaged really quickly. But actually, this was new and really quite different, and covered FE and employability. So I cannot thank the judges, along with the partners and sponsors, enough for just getting behind it. And we had some incredible judges who gave up an extraordinary amount of time to be able to really make sure that the awards was done with integrity. As I've said more than once, I am not a judge on the awards. I know so many of you, you know, I'm literally a walking conflict of interest. So I'm not involved in the judging at all. And I actually got the pleasure of sitting back and watching the judges do their work on that. We had 200 guests on the day, and 54 of those were finalists who joined us, and they represented individual categories, team categories, and organisation categories. And again, we'll tell you a bit more about that in a moment. One of the things I'll just pick up on from year one that will continue into year two is with the judging process, if you like. One of the things we made a decision on very early was that we wanted to bring your stories to life off the page. So all of our shortlisted nominees had the opportunity to meet the judges, and they did that through an interview with them that was then shared with our other judges. And again, I'll let Sal talk to you later about our intentions to carry those things forward into the year ahead. So that's our summary of year one, if you like, in numbers. A few of the photographs on there, and I'm going to close in my section here before I hand you over to Sally, and then you'll hear from me again a little bit later on. Talking about the legacy that for those of you who were there on the day, you'll know I got very emotional at all times during last year's event. But one in particular was talking about our legacy, and we hope that you will continue to hold us to account for this in making sure that what sometimes with awards events can kind of begin and end on the day, and begin and end with the people who win awards. We are very keen to make sure that that doesn't happen. And the legacy is about how do we tell your stories so that you continue to support the sector. We're great at collaborating, actually, but continue to support the sector to learn from each other. How do we professionalise the routes into quality and compliance roles within our sector? And the third one is about how we increasingly ensure that we have a diverse representation of people within the quality and compliance space. The only one of those I'm going to focus on just for today, we'll tell you more about the others, you know, in the months ahead, is around how we tell your stories. And for those of you who will have seen last week, we launched the Speaking of Excellence podcast series, and our finalists are being invited onto those podcasts. So Sam Rushmere, I can see that you're here today. Know that that invitation, by the way, is coming your way. We've invited people onto the podcast to talk about a particular topic, and the assessor to educate a podcast has already gone out. I'm fairly sure that Sal will tell you that the Continuous Improvement Mindset podcast is about to go out after this launch event today. You're going to see three fabulous people talking to me about changing direction and what it means to take perhaps poorer performing provision up to the heights of doing really well. So that's the third one that will go live next week. And next week, we're recording a session with our university colleagues with 3 finalists on that one as well. So that will continue into the new year. The second part of that, telling the stories, is not just about podcasts, because we know some of our finalists wouldn't want to do that and wouldn't feel comfortable being in that space. So we also have the Inspiring Excellence written features that will start to showcase the stories and experiences of our finalists. So gradually, year on year, we continue to build up this bank of sharing the highs and sharing the lows of what it is that have got some fabulous people in these 2 sectors to where they have got to. So please head to wherever you get your podcasts from, Spotify, YouTube, or the Apple Store, wherever it might be, and look for the Speaking of Excellence podcast series. If any of you have been on it or have listened to the first episode, drop us a note in the chat, because we'd love to get a feel for your initial reflections on them as well. So so that's our plan, is to have that up and running and to keep going. Like I said, don't think it will end. They will continue again after Christmas, once we've had a short break in between, to allow people to eat loads of turkey along the way as well. So if I get our heads into QPA 25, you will see it has a date on the 6th of June next year. We will be heading back to Leeds in a different venue. Sal will tell you all about it, where we will be celebrating once more the people in this space. We are excited to tell you even more about how we take it really to its next level, and some of the new things that are coming up. So Sal, let me hand over to you to share more with the guys online today.
Brilliant. Thanks, Lou. So this year there's a few things to kind of note about what will be different this time round. So there will be 2 new categories. So there'll be the Quality Champion and the Compliance Leader Awards. Categories have been introduced, and there'll be an award given in both of those categories, I think, for employability and FE. And we'll talk a little bit about how that comes around when we do the piece on the nominations shortly. The event itself will be different this year, so that's another change. But again, we wanted to try and keep it fresh, so there'll be some different things. Like I say, slightly new venue. We're going to have a big surprise again at the beginning, but we'll keep that under wraps. And there will be some slight difference in the format. Obviously, we've got to squeeze another 2 categories in this year as well. So, but we want to try and make it a little bit more inclusive this year. So we're thinking about ideas about how we can bring some of the audience into the event, and but still try and keep that atmosphere. Daytime events seem to work really well for us. It meant that people had good traveling time and things like that. So, we'll stick to that time of day. We'll try our best to keep the special elements, but just build on it this year. We were a little bit tempted to go big bang and hire a stadium, but we thought we'll save that for a couple of years and see where we get to with that one. So just a bit more capacity in this year, but we'll explain a little bit more soon. So in terms of categories, there are 11 categories that you can submit nominations for in this year's awards. The Outstanding Contribution to Quality Improvement, which is the one that we've highlighted in red on there, is an award that's given to the nominees from all of the categories, and we did this award last year as well. Like most of the other awards, there will be 2 awards given, one for further education and one for employability. Most of the awards will be split in that way, but the categories might split slightly differently. So for last year, for example, due to the volume of the nominations and the nature of them, it was fairer to split the quality team into a category for FE colleges and a category for training and employability providers. So whilst most of them will drop into kind of like FE and employability, it might be that we change that slightly dependent upon how the nominations come through. Most of the awards will be, like I say, 2 categories. There are those 2 new awards which I've highlighted in there. We will release details of them all, so there will be criteria set for each of the award categories, and Lou will touch on how to submit your nominations, and what the kind of information that we will need to have for you to make a successful nomination.
I think this one is me now, Sally. You want me to
Hmm.
take over on this
Yeah.
one? In terms of the nominations, let me just give you some bits of key information for you to take forward. The nominations will open on the 2nd of December, and you can go to qualityprofessionalsawards.org in order to be able to submit your nominations. So 2nd of December, drop the date in your diary. I honestly cannot emphasize this enough, and I do this in the other awards for other things in the sector. I do some judging in my own right, and we've also applied for awards ourselves, in our own businesses. And the worst thing you can ever do is wait until the last minute. To start to construct your application, I'm going to tell you a bit more, some things to focus on in a moment. So 2nd of December, get it in your diary. It is about celebrating yourself and others, so don't be shy. You can nominate yourself. It is absolutely okay to self-nominate. And the reason we say that is even though sometimes your colleagues think you're great, they might not know the awards are there, or they might be too busy. So please don't be shy. There's nothing wrong with self-nominating, and equally you can nominate other colleagues as well. Our plan is, and we'll give you the exact dates on this on the website, it will close in March 2025. So we've given you a good amount of time to be able to get your nominations in. We're going to announce the finalists in May, so we get kind of a month to talk about them online as we did last year and celebrate them. In that month, those finalists will then get to do their videos with the judges, and then the judging panel complete the final stages of the process. And then, of course, we announce on the day. There are some eligibility criteria. Roles covered in the category description, so look out for that. So, for example, we'll say things like internal quality assurers, continuous improvement managers, operational staff, which is where the new one comes in, and senior leaders, for example. The reason why we have to use a bit of a catch-all is, particularly in employability and in FE, you call things different things, but they mean similar job titles. So don't be thrown if you don't see your exact job title in there. They're there as an illustration. Yours might look slightly different to that. We've already said it covers FE skills and employability, but just for the sake of any clarity, within that very broad church of FE skills, that includes our colleagues in all types of provision, so local authorities, independent training providers, colleges and universities. And I have to say, one of the absolute joys of this year's awards, because we're still in this year, is the fact that we had finalists and winners represented from every single part of that, which made me incredibly proud to see, and really showed some of that thing about showcasing provision that we don't always see. We also had finalists represented from different parts of the UK, and we also had winners from all different corners as well. So, that was really exciting to see. So you're all very welcome, and we can't wait to see you. And therefore, UK&I is covered. And what we do need is contact information, if you like, for our nominees. We're going to make this really clear this year, because sometimes you were brilliant at nominating people and then didn't tell us how to get in touch with the person that you'd actually nominated. We got there in the end, but just simple stuff like that, really makes a difference in terms of being able to, make these things work. We learned a lot last year. We've never run an awards before, so we were the new kids on the block. I'm going to give a shout out to here, to colleagues like Jagdeep from the Pathway Group, from the Multicultural Apprenticeship Awards, and lots of other people who were willing to share. Alex Miles from Yorkshire Learning Providers, who were willing to share their experience. OAL for their own awards, who you'll hear a bit more about in a moment. The generosity, I have to say this while I've got you all, was just astounding in people helping us to make it a success. We really couldn't have done it without so many people who were involved in the day and are continuing to be involved next year as well. I'm going to briefly give you some nomination tips. I'm not going to go too heavy on this actually, but so I'll give you a few pointers, but I'm also going to direct you to another resource, and we'll probably do another webinar at some point in the new year, to go through these things in a bit more detail with you. So the first one seems really obvious, but it's astonishing how many times I see as a judge on other awards, and also we noticed on this one, that sometimes people missed out focus on the things that are in the award criteria. So just make sure that you're picking those things up. I'm just putting my screen back on. Just making sure that you're picking those things up in the way that you would want them to be picked up. Yep. So focus on the awards criteria. Make sure you align your submission directly to that. So if you think about yourself as a judge, for those of you who are in an FE space, think about it a bit like you're an inspector, that you're needing to make it as obvious as possible what it is that you're responding to. And we do our best with the forms themselves to make it really simple. We got lots of great feedback about our process not being bloated last year, trying to keep it simple for you. But do make sure that you've done that. The one thing I just need to say actually in relation to year two in comparison to year one is in year one, we could basically give anyone, carte blanche over saying this is any time before the first awards because we weren't in a time-bound period. What I need you to remember in year two is that we're looking at the last 12 months. Yeah. So you're now focusing your attention really carefully on what it is that we've done over the last 12 months. And over that period of time, making sure that you are telling a compelling story about what it is that you're nominating yourself or your colleagues or your provision for. So it's really important to get across the essence of that. And I have to say, when we do the videos with you, that really helps because we get to know the people behind the words, and we think that's super important that we do that. The third one is we tried to not go too heavy on the evidence base because we know that can take up a huge amount of time. But what we are going to do this year is let you add some links in because we got some questions about that last year. And don't worry about things like testimonials and so on. So where you've got someone, a quote that you can put in from someone, do use that because it's really nice to hear that voice come through. I'm going to put this one to bed straight away because it came up last year and I had to do a quick video about it. If you're in an FE and skills space, bearing in mind this doesn't matter for employability because they're not inspected in the same way. There were some people who thought that they wouldn't be able to put a nomination forward because they were sitting on a requires improvement grade from Ofsted. That is not relevant for these awards. And the reason for that is that there is a huge gap between inspections. So even if you're sitting on an RI, you're sometimes looking at an 18-month window, ish between when you got your RI and what's come out of the other end of it. And you know that you've moved mountains in that period of time in order to develop your provision. So please, please, please don't think that that's going to be a precursor. What you need to do, the one above, tell your story to us that allows us to see the impact of you as a quality professional or your quality professional team, if you like, or your compliance team in making that difference. So you've got to stand out, and you're never going to be able to stand out when you're doing an award if you are trying to be all basically it's not a time for you to show any level of humility. So if you try and do that, you are not going to hit the mark in what you're trying to do. You are here to show off, so make sure you show off when you are writing your nomination that comes into us. Make sure you're picking up on clear language and structure. So again, it's just thinking about for the judges, making it as easy as possible for them to understand it. You might be in the FE sector, but have an employability judge who's part of the panel on yours. So think about that. How would someone who's not from an FE space understand what it is that I'm trying to say? And again, we were really keen to make sure we had that crossover last year with the judges, and it worked really well. And just the final point for me is that importance of I. So if you're writing your own nomination or you're writing about someone else, talk about them or yourself specifically. So the importance of I, because if you start saying, well, we did this, but it's an individual application in an individual category, then the we will not work. You can, of course, use we when you're in the team categories or you're the organisation ones. But when it's the individual ones, don't be coy. Make the point of really showing off and talking about that person, or if you're nominating yourself, that importance of I that's in there as well. And a couple of links, to that are nothing to do with us, no affiliation to us, that we've looked at and we think are good. So have a look at the articles on augustawards.com. The guys on there do some really good pieces of advice around helping you to apply for awards and put your best foot forward. And the other one is from Sophie, who has a great podcast called Beyond the Bio. And there's an episode 55, which very specifically talked about entering awards. if any of you are wondering actually why you should, one of the things that August in particular get across really well is there is something incredibly powerful. And for me, this is what stood out for last year, even for the people who didn't make it to the finalist shortlist, just by being nominated, just by one of your colleagues celebrating you, or you having the confidence to celebrate yourself, meant the world to that person or those people. So please don't look at this and think, I'm not sure if we've quite made the mark yet. Even if you think that it's worth saying to someone, look what I've done, I've put you forward for this because I think you're great, then that is absolutely worth doing. So please, 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 but as we keep saying, these are the people who are often in the background, and we're just trying to push them into the spotlight. And the more that you can help us do that, the better, in your own organizations, or sharing everything we talk about with the awards on your socials as well, would be very much appreciated as we continue to build up the profile of the awards, and most importantly, the people who are nominated. So I'm going to hand you back to Sal, who's going to tell you a bit about our sponsors and supporters from last year, and perhaps say a few words about where we're heading into 2025.
Thanks, Lou. So, yeah, we've made this point a few times already. The sponsors and supporters from 2024 took a leap of faith in the awards, really. They made the decision to invest in them before anybody, including us, knew whether they would be successful or as successful as they were. Our headline sponsors in 2024, our headline partners were Occupational Awards Limited, OAL, and the Institute of Employability Professionals, IEP. They both secured headline sponsorship for 2025 on the day of last year's awards, which was, just like cherry on the cake, really, for us in some ways, just to have that support. And many of the supporters did the same. So we must say thanks to Jan, Zach, Lee, Scott, and Heather, and all the guys from those teams who have all got behind the awards from the off, and others as well. So for example, like Saka S Knights, who was the first category sponsor to sign up last year. And again, he'll be here again this year. Or his team will be here again this year. And we had support in other ways. So, for example, Focus XR created the introduction video with Dan last year, arriving on the water taxi in Leeds. And we had support from Sunderland College as well, who provided the student entertainment for us. So there's lots of opportunities for organisations to get involved with the awards. Like I say, many of them have committed to being back again this year, and we'll introduce them all individually when we start to do the category announcements and the sponsorship announcements over the next few weeks and months. So you'll see a lot of the names, if not all of them, popping up again. The awards just simply wouldn't exist without them. So we're really keen to say, if you are looking for suppliers, partners, membership, go and check them out first, because you'll know that you're working with organisations who truly value quality compliance and have put their wallet to that in sponsoring the awards as well, which is fantastic. We do still have some sponsorship opportunities available. For the new categories, some for the event itself. You will find details of these on the website. The packages come in all different shapes and sizes for all sized marketing budgets. And as a marketing manager, I understand what that means. So please do check it out and come and be part of the awards. Next slide for me there, Lou, please.
I have to say before we go, I know for a fact that was Pete from Orbital who put the note in the chat around wanting Dan's shoes.
Yeah.
So when you're coming back this year, Pete, then I'm expecting sparkly shoes. Anything less will not be accepted. Or yourself.
Thanks. There is one special opportunity that I wanted to highlight today. So we're looking for a sponsor for Speaking of Excellence for this season. Weekly content going out for the next few months and potentially beyond that. So again, we're going to feel our way through this process. So if you're interested and would like to know more, please get in touch. What that will mean for you is that you will have your brand as part of the as featured as part of all of the content, giving you repeated exposure every time they're published or mentioned. We'll invite you along to the awards event, and we'll give you a brand presence during the ceremony as well. So it's a fantastic opportunity for somebody. Please do check it out if you've got that capacity. Let us know. Okay, next slide, Lou, please. Okay, so are we moving on?
Really? Is it moved?
Babs. Yeah, it's gone.
Let's go, so.
Fabulous. So the venue this year, it's down the road from where we were last year. We wanted to keep it as close as we could to the train station in Leeds, and we'll be back at the Leeds Marriott Hotel. It has slightly more capacity in the reception area and in the room itself, so we'll be able to open it up a little bit to 270 distinguished guests, of course. There will be live entertainment again this year. We've got some ideas in the pipeline for making that a little bit bigger than it was in year one. Of course, networking and socializing. The atmosphere on the day was great. There was people chatting, people saying, "Oh my goodness, I've seen you on a screen," and just actually seeing each other for the first time. And we don't sometimes often get together with our colleagues. So again, it was that opportunity to see people that you might not see that often. Um, we will, like I say, keep it as an afternoon event. We felt that that worked very well. Our hosts will be Dan and Lou again this year, and we're going to look at different ways of involving more people in the awards ceremony and just bringing it on to that next level in the things that we're doing this year. And if you've got any ideas, feedback, things that you think would be great, drop us a line, just let us know. We're really open to ideas about things that you think might work this time round. So please do that. Okay, is it me again? Oh, it's me again. Okay. So we're going to just go through some of the key dates. So if you've got your diaries handy, then you want to pop them in, we'll send the slides out afterwards, but just make sure you keep a note of these dates. So podcast has already launched. There will be a second publication that goes alongside Speaking of Excellence, which is the Inspiring Excellence. So that'll be things like documents and um, other other bits that don't quite fit into the podcast format. So we're working on those at the moment. So keep your eye out for those as well. The 2nd of December, as mentioned, the nominations open. We'll update the website with that. We'll put that out on email and on socials, so you'll be able to see that that's come through and when you can start making those nominations. We've already said that March is when the nominations close and the shortlisting begins. What will happen is that as that happens, people will start to get invited to record their videos. So there's a bit of kind of there's quite a lot of logistical work involved in setting up calendar invites and scheduling meetings and pairing people up with people that are going to do the interviews. So bear in mind that that will take place, but it's something to maybe think about when you make a nomination or that when you're nominated, is that we will be inviting people to come along and be part of those videos. And then in May, the finalists are announced. The final judging will take place. Tickets go on sale. Nominees will receive 2 tickets free. Just a point of clarification on that as well. So if you're nominated as a group, the group will receive 2 tickets to start you off with. And then the award ceremony itself, as mentioned, will be on the 6th of June. Once we've had the finalists announced, we will give information about how you can secure your tickets. And we're also in conversations with the Marriott about hotels and just making sure that people can, if they want to, stay at the hotel, whether we can get rates at good rates and things like that. So again, that's come from the learning that we had from the year one. But if you've got any questions about that, please do, let us know and we'll do our best to help.
Great, thank you very much, Sal. So while we take you just to a final Q&A and any questions, I've got a couple of asks of people in the audience, if you don't mind. Judges, I know there's at least 3 of you as far as I can see that are online today. So judges from last year, do me a favor, could you just go to the chat and just drop one piece of advice in based on your experience of judging this year that you think would help the guys who've come online today and who are watching this, after the event, to be able to help them to think about how to put together a nomination. So if you're one of the judges last year, don't be shy. Just drop us a quick note in the chat to help the guys who are here to think about how to go about nominating. While they're doing that, and if you have any other questions, please just drop them in the chat as well. So no question is a daft question. So please feel free to add anything in you've got. If you are not already signed up to the newsletter that comes via the website, please do that because lots of the information goes out that way. So head to qualityprofessionalsawards.org and you will see where you can sign up to that. And that will mean that you get stuff, dropped in your inbox because not everyone is on LinkedIn all of the time. We're going to carry on this year just using LinkedIn as the main social media tool. We might extend that in future years, but the risk is you kind of get bombarded in too many different ways. So can I please ask you I would really appreciate it if you can share that amongst your network as well. So the more we get, the bigger this gets, and somewhere along the line, Dan gets what he wants, which is an 800-seater venue to rival the Multicultural Apprenticeship Awards, which I'm determined never happens because I would have a breakdown, quite frankly. But the more we can do that, the more people we have in the room, and we've already grown, as you can see, within the second year to cope with the wait list that we had for tickets. So we've got a bit more room. So do that. If you have any other questions you'd just like to talk to us about separately that you'd prefer not to talk about today, please, again, don't be shy. Get in touch with us either via, we've given a mobile there, which is Sally's, I think, that will go to Sal. And also our email address is there for you as well. So let me just check in the chat. I'm laughing, Paul Swindle, at your message, which is absolutely right. That literally should just be my LinkedIn bio. There's just no way I can go with it. But I have to say, it's been a wonderful excuse for me not to have to do the very hard job of judging this. So I'm going to stick to that one forever. Ollie has put a note in. So Ollie, for anyone who doesn't know him, is the vice principal, one of the vice principals at Middlesbrough College, and joined our judging team last year. He's dropped you a couple of really important points in the chat. Be really clear on the impact you or your team have had. So focus on impact, and emphasize what sets you apart. So that point about you can't be shy, you can't try and kind of hide your light under a bushel. It's so important that you sing your own or your colleagues' praises. Mandy's put in there, show off the what and the how you made, show off the what and the how you made a difference. It's so important for others to learn from your experience. So in true, I must say this, I'm sure she won't mind me saying it, is that Mandy joined us from the Institute for Apprenticeships and Technical Education as a judge. And it's such a great point she makes, because you see her day job coming through in that, which is how do we continue to build the legacy, share good practice, and share the experiences across the sector. And for anyone who's listened to Tracy, Melissa, and Emma on podcast at #1, you will know exactly where she's coming from with that. And Ollie's point around drawing on evidence and examples. So, like I said, we've deliberately not required you to upload attachments, because I know from other awards that can end up being a really big mammoth task, and some of you are really tiny organizations, and therefore you're then competing against some really big ones and you don't have the capacity to do that. So Ollie's point is crucial. Draw on evidence and examples in the body of the text that you're talking about, because that's really helpful for the judges to be able to see the impact that you are having. Thank you, guys. That's great advice and very much appreciated. So I'm going to leave this rumbling just for a second, just in case any of the audience today have got questions that you would want us to answer live. I appreciate you might think you prefer to do them separately, because now we're all going for an award, so we might not want other people to know our questions. So we like the competitive spirit of that. So do get in touch if you've got any. Thank you very much to everyone for coming along today, and anyone who's listening to the recording of this as well, because we know you do that. We'll make sure we share it via newsletter and on our social channels as well. And frankly, I cannot wait to get going again and start celebrating. It's the best Christmas present for me that we get this going for a second year. So 2nd of December, get it in your diaries. On the website and via the other channels, we'll confirm the closing date in March. We've made it as far into March as we can, but please don't leave it until the last minute, because you will regret it, because you won't then be able to get across some of the things we've said and also some of the advice that Mandy and Ollie have popped in the chat for you as well. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, Fran. Oh, that's great. Thank you, Fran. That's great to hear. And Hayley Lord, we've got another one of our finalists on today. So thank you, Hayley and Sam, and everyone else who I've kind of noticed up the line who's made their comments as well. It was great because the people were great, and it was such a brilliant opportunity to just hear about some amazing things that everyone is doing. Sometimes we get a bit of a hard rap in these sectors, and actually to be able to put great quality at the forefront was second to none. So thank you, everyone. Hi, Rachel. Lovely to see you all, and we'll look forward to your nominations coming in. See you later, everyone. Bye-bye.